Hi guys, I'm Miriam Cutelis, and I have really been excited about doing this. I have always wanted to be read to, and I can only assume as a grown-up, a lot of you also want to continue to be read to. So I got one of my favorite authors, Florence Scovel Shinn, and one of her best books, The Game of Life and How to Play It. So I'm going to be reading this book and reacting to it, and I'm going to put it in different videos. And I hope you are as excited about it as I am. And if you're not, you're going to be. All right, let's get started. All right, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Florence Scovel Shinn. And I think that's how you say it because I have looked that up. And anyway, okay, forward. Life is difficult. Everything seems so hard. I'm always broke. I'll never find my soulmate. Work is a grind. Nothing ever seems to work out for me. These are only some of the many negative thoughts that can run rampant through our minds. Many people can relate to the idea that life doesn't seem to turn out the way we thought it would or hoped it would. But is that true? Or is that just what we tell ourselves? Is it possible that we make life so much more difficult than it needs to be? And is it even remotely possible that life can be fun, even a game? That is the premise of Florence Scovel Shinn's classic masterpiece, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Originally published in 1925, The Game of Life and How to Play It has never been out of print and over the years has sold millions of copies. Originally self-published by the author after no publisher would accept it, the book has gone on to influence people from all walks of life, from business leaders to students to spiritual teachers such as Louise Hay, Norman Vincent Peale, and Emmett Fox. When a book continues to inspire readers nearly a century after original publication, it generally means that the idea in the book are universal and applicable. That is absolutely true for The Game of Life and How to Play It. The book contains simple yet powerful advice for living a positive life. In fact, Shinn shows how we can turn our life into a game and turn our minds into power attractors of abundance at every turn in every area of our lives. Filled with stories from the author's life as well as the lives of her many students, The Game of Life and How to Play It also contains instructions on changing our viewpoint from one of limitation and negativity to that of possibility and positivity. She also shows how affirmations can yield powerful effects and even gives us exercises to use. Shinn used these ideas and practices in her own life. Born in New Jersey in 1871, Shinn became an artist, book and magazine illustrator, and even an actress in New York City. Divorced and living on her own in Manhattan, Shinn became interested in New Thought teachings and eventually became a popular spiritual teacher. It is from these experiences that she wrote her books. The Game of Life and How to Live It was the one that captured the attention of millions over the years, and it continues to change readers' lives to this day. As you read this book, be prepared to see your life in a new way. Shinn is clear that we have a choice in how we perceive and live our lives. Not only that, but that we have responsibility to elevate our attitudes and thoughts, which will in turn change every area in our life. She doesn't leave room for doubt, complaints, or procrastination. Follow the positive ideas in this book and see positive effects ripple in your life as well. The Game of Life and How to Play It. The game. All right. So I'm going to be reading you one chapter and then we're going to talk about it. And Hopefully we'll get to do this every day. Got it? Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle. It is a game. It is a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law, and the Old and the New Testaments give the rules of the game with wonderful clearness. Jesus Christ taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. This means that whatever man sends out in word or deed will return to him. What he gives, he will receive. If he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives love, he will receive love. If he gives criticism, he will receive criticism. If he lies, he will be lied to. If he cheats, he will be cheated. We are taught also that the imagining faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. Keep thy heart or imagination with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverb 4:23. This means that what man imagines or images sooner or later externalizes in his affairs. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it continuously and read about it, and until it manifested in his body, and he died, the victim of distorted imagination. So we see to play successfully the game of life, we must train the imagining faculty. A person with an imagining faculty trained to imagine or to image only good brings into his life, quote, every righteous desire of his heart, health, wealth, love, friends, perfect self-expression, his highest ideals. The imagination has been called, quote, the scissors of the mind, and it is ever cutting day by day the pictures man sees there, and sooner or later he meets his own creations in his outer world. To train the imagination successfully, man must understand the workings of his mind. The Greeks said, know thyself. There are three departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and the superconscious. The subconscious is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power or of induction. Whatever man feels deeply or images clearly, it impresses upon the subconscious mind and carried out in minutest detail. For example, a woman I know, when a child, always, quote, made believe she was a widow. She, quote, dressed up in black clothes and wore a long black veil, and people thought she was very clever and amusing. She grew up and married a man whom she was deeply in love. In a short time, he died, and she wore a black and sweeping veil for many years. The picture of herself as a widow was impressed upon the subconscious mind, and in due time worked itself out, regardless of the havoc created. The conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind that sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses the subconscious. The subconscious mind is the God mind within each man, and it is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern spoken by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. There is a place that you are to fill and no one else can fill. Something you are to do, which no one else can do. There's a perfect picture of this in the subconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable ideal, quote, something too good to be true. In reality, it is man's true destiny or destination flashed to him from the infinite intelligence, which is within himself. Many people, however, are in ignorance of their true destiny and are striving for things in situations which do not belong to them and would only bring failure and dissatisfaction if attained. For example, a woman came to me and asked me to, quote, speak the word, that she would marry a certain man with whom was very much in love. She called him AB. I replied that this would be a violation of spiritual law, but that I would speak the word for the right man, the, quote, divine selection, the man who belonged to her by divine right. I added, quote, if AB is the right man, you can't lose him. And if he isn't, you will receive his equivalent. She saw AB frequently, but no headway made in their friendship. One evening, she called and said, quote, do you know, for the last week, AB hasn't seemed so wonderful to me. I replied, maybe he is not the divine selection. Another man may be the right one. Soon after that, she met another man who fell in love with her at once and who said she was his ideal. In fact, he said all the things that she had always wished AB would say to her. She remarked, it was quite uncanny. She soon returned his love and lost all interest in AB. This shows the law of substitution. A right idea was substituted for a wrong one, and therefore there was no loss or sacrifice involved. Jesus Christ said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And he said the kingdom was within man. The kingdom is the realm of right ideas or the divine pattern. Jesus Christ taught that man's words played a leading part in the game of life. Quote, by your words ye are justified, and by your words ye are condemned. Many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words. For example, a woman once asked me why her life was now one of poverty, of limitation. Formerly, she had a home, was surrounded by beautiful things, and had plenty of money. We found she had often tired of the management of her home and had said repeatedly, quote, I'm sick and tired of things. I wish I lived in a trunk. And she added, today I am living in that trunk. She had spoken herself into a trunk. The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. That's hilarious. For example, a woman who had a great deal of money joked continuously about getting ready for the poorhouse. In a few years, she was almost destitute, having impressed the subconscious mind with a picture of lack and limitation. Fortunately, the law works both ways, and a situation of lack may be changed to one of plenty. For example, a woman came to me one hot summer's day for a treatment for prosperity. She was worn out, dejected, and discouraged. She said she possessed just $8 in the world. I said, good, well, bless the $8 and multiply them as Jesus Christ multiplied the loaves and the fishes. For he taught that every man had the power to bless and to multiply and heal and to prosper. She said, what shall I do next? I replied, follow instruction, follow intuition. Have you a hunch to do anything or go anywhere? Intuition means intuition or to be taught from within. It is man's unerring guide. And I will deal more fully with its laws in a following chapter. The woman replied, I don't know. I seem to have a hunch to go home. I've just enough money for car fare. Her home was in a distant city and was one of lack and limitation, and the reasoning mind or intellect would have said, stay in New York and get work and make money. I replied, then go home. Never violate a hunch. Ooh, I need to write that down. Okay. I spoke the following words for her. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for blank. She is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right. I told her to repeat it continuously also. She left for home immediately. In calling on a woman one day, she linked up with an old friend of her family. Through this friend, she received thousands of dollars in a most miraculous way. She has said to me often, tell people about the woman who came to you with $8 and a hunch. There's always plenty on a man's pathway, but it can only be brought into manifestation through desire, faith, or the spoken word. Jesus Christ brought out clearly that man must make the first move. Okay. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Matthew 7:7. In the scriptures we read, concerning the words of my hands, command ye me. Infinite intelligence, God, is ever ready to carry out man's smallest or greatest demands. Every desire uttered or unexpressed is a demand. We are often startled by having a wish suddenly fulfilled. For example, one Easter, having seen many beautiful rose trees in a florist's window, I wished I would receive one, and for an instant saw it mentally being carried in the door. Easter came, and with it a beautiful rose tree. I thanked my friend the following day and told her it was just what I had wanted. She replied, I didn't send you a rose tree, I send you lilies. The man had mixed the order and sent me a rose tree simply because I had started the law in action and I had to have a rose tree. Nothing stands between man and his highest ideals and every desire of his heart but doubt and fear. When man can, quote, wish without worrying, every desire will be instantly fulfilled. Ooh, I like that. I will explain more fully in a following chapter the scientific reason for this and how fear must be erased from the consciousness. It is man's only enemy, fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of sickness, fear of loss, and a feeling of insecurity in some plane. Jesus Christ said, quote, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Matthew 8:26. So we can see we must substitute faith for fear. For fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in evil. It is faith in evil instead of good. Let me read that again. So we can see we must substitute faith for evil. For fear is only inverted faith. Got it. It is faith in evil instead of good. Excellent. The object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and to obliterate all mental pictures of evil. It must be done by impressing the subconscious mind with a realization of good. A very brilliant man who has attained great success told me he had suddenly erased all fear from his consciousness by reading a sign which hung in a room. He had printed in large letters this statement, quote, why worry? It will probably never happen. These words were stamped indelibly indelibly, there you go, upon his subconscious mind, and he has now a firm conviction that only good can come into his life. Therefore, only good can manifest. In the following chapter, I will deal with the different methods of impressing the subconscious mind. It is man's faithful servant, for one must be careful to give it the right orders. Man has ever a silent listener at his side, his subconscious mind. Every thought, every word is impressed upon it and carried out in amazing detail. It is like a singer making a record on the sensitive disc of the phonographic plate. Every note and tone of the singer's voice is registered. If he coughs or hesitates, it is registered also. So let us break all the old bad records in the subconscious mind, the records of our lives, which we do not wish to keep, and make new and beautiful ones. Speak these words aloud with power and conviction. I now smash and demolish by my spoken word every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life, the game completed. In the following chapters, I will show you how man can change his conditions by changing his words. Any man who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. Quote, death and life are in the power of the tongue, end quote, Proverb 18:21. All right, that was the first chapter. Oh my goodness. What can I even touch on here? Wow. There's a lot of connections to the Bible here, which I think is really interesting because I didn't grow up reading the Bible at all. But all the quotes seem to be quite helpful to the whole idea that we have to impress upon the subconscious mind. There was this wonderful quote in there, though, that we must make the first move. Oh, yeah, that was the one that I thought about. Okay, so we must make the first move. Okay, this is important because when I read that, I had to agree because I have grown up my whole life with issues about my body, and there's like issues of self-worth pertaining to my body. And so when I'm reading this, it made me realize that I started to get help from my guides and my higher self and the universe or infinite intelligence the second that I asked for help. Like I used my words to ask for help. And so man must make the first move. And it just reminded me of how I needed to like ask for help. I just needed to surrender. And then the other part, which I thought was really interesting, was how about inverted faith, that fear is just inverted faith. And let's see, I'm going to try to find it so we can look at it. Okay, here we go. It was like the last line before the next chapter. Here we go. Yeah, so we can see we must substitute faith for fear is only inverted faith. Faith is a hard one. I mean, what do you guys think? Like, faith is a difficult one for me. But as time goes by and maybe that's why when people start manifesting, they first start manifesting little things. And that's because it's easy to be more relaxed about just letting things be and having faith about parking, right? It's easy to say, well, because you're not losing a lot. If you don't find parking, you're just going to have to walk a little more, so maybe the reason that when people start learning how to manifest, they learn about, finding that perfect spot. Or like me, I'm a thrift store. I always say I manifest things in the thrift store. Like if I need something, I'll go to the thrift store and there it is. Or I will make a list in my head of things that I need to look for. And oftentimes there are things that are not even in the thrift store typically. Or like what are the chances of me finding that exact item in the thrift store? But I do. So so it must be that all of us, when we start manifesting more and more and more, we do it first with the really simple things, and then it just kind of, you know, the hope is that it just kind of gets bigger. I had a conversation with a bunch of women. I do a reading group every Friday, and we were talking about how in the future generations, all of it, manifestation is just going to be so normal and typical that we're going to be like, imagine, like remember those days when we actually had to, beg for these things to happen, and that we weren't able to manifest just the most basic stuff. So I think as the generation that's growing up now and that's coming up now, they're so much more intuitive, they're so much more gifted, and all of these, it's like they come pre-programmed to be manifestors. So I see that in my daughter. I see that in my son as well. Like I feel like kids are born already being able to do a lot of those things on their own. So I'm really excited. I love her style of sharing stories about people, and saying the word. And interestingly, I have this quote in my art room. It says, "Be careful what you say. Every cell is listening." And I love it. I love it. It's usually sits up here. It just ended up falling the other day because I was showing it to someone else. And I think it's so important. I'm excited to be reading a book that places such a high importance on what it is that we say. That is something that I am continuously working at about myself. And there was I don't know, some kind of book I read when I was younger about being a parent, when my kids were little, probably, about how to speak to your kids. And it just says that the way that you speak to your kids is the way that they're going to talk to themselves when they're grown people. And bless my family's heart. We did not grow up that way. This like our past generation, they weren't, I mean, they did speak to us very sweetly, but it was it's not as gentle as how we are with our kids now. So yeah, so I make sure very much to constantly address my children as precious, and they're very precious to me. They're so precious that, I mean, I would give my life for either of my children in a second. So they're incredibly precious to me, and I make sure that they understand that. It's because the way that I speak to them is the way that they're going to speak to themselves in the future. And I really believe that. I really believe that. Um, so yeah, words are very, very powerful. And I'm really, really excited that I'm going to be reading this book about the importance of words as well. She did write another book as well about, I think it's Your Word is Your Wand, which is very specifically about that. So I think she wrote that after this, so we can do that later. But the amount of emphasis she's placing um, on she calls it something. She says treatment. Oh yeah. She uses, so like when you out loud say things. As a Cognomovement practitioner, interestingly, we have to have our clients speak about their issues. Like when we work with them one-on-one, they're speaking about their issues, and not for the purposes of analyzing, but for the purposes of their nervous system hearing their words and like their reasoning while we're moving their eyes around. And so I find that really powerful too. The fact that that the act of speaking itself is important, not for the purposes of an analysis, but speaking for the purposes of having every cell in your body hear it, right? And especially your brain, or the part of your brain that's processing those thoughts, but for your whole body to process those feelings. So I found that really cool too. Um, the law of substitution was interesting about this or better. And I've heard that in different circles. Of Amanda Francis from Rich as Fuck, um, in her book talks about that too, that you're going to ask for this or better, this or more, and like just kind of get idea. Um, Later on, I think, if I remember correctly, she does talk about how we are so incredibly powerful in our wishes that we will often attract to us things that maybe are not meant for us. And so always phrase it. And that's why she mentioned that she's going to talk about that further in the book, about the way to phrase it, because we are so incredibly powerful in our manifesting abilities that if we don't phrase it correctly, we might call upon us things that we don't necessarily want, you know? Um, I'm trying to think of, I have become incredibly focused on the words that I say about myself for many, many years now. So I can't even think of an instance in the past, you know, like decade that of where I have said anything about myself. Um, when I hear someone else express things about themselves, it really hurts my heart, and I try my hardest not to correct them. Um, in my mind, I do, if I do say anything at all, like that I think even as I might say something as a joke, and then I will say cancel, cancel, because I truly do believe that we're so powerful in our ability to manifest what we speak. So even in joke, like I said in the book, the universe does not have a sense of humor. Um, the universe just sort of dishes out, balances things out. And it's not like, oh, she was joking. Let's just forget that she said she's going to live in a trunk. No, the universe is like, oh, she's just really, really focusing on this trunk business. Let's give her the trunk, you know. So yeah, so that is interesting. So um, it has made me want to do some sessions on Cognomovement sessions. So I have my ball here, and it's made me want to do some Cognomovement sessions on speaking the word or doing a treatment, like she says. So speaking the word and treatment in the book is the same thing. So speaking the word is just like affirming a reality that you want to be in at the moment. So affirming it as if you're already in it. So, and that is what she calls treatment. So I was thinking of doing a cogno session for myself about things that I would like to have in my life, and just doing that as a treatment and combining both the manifesting and the cogno movement together, and see if that helps clear things, because cognitive movement, whenever I use it, has always helped me to clear the path for things to come to me. And I really think cognitive movement serves a purpose of clearing the filters of our chakras, or our things that are meant default to come to us. Like we are meant to have, this high level of abundance, and through daily living and struggles and challenges, they get clogged up. So I think my daily process, or my daily practice of using cognitive movement, has been really, really helpful in and clearing those routes of um, clearing those uh, things that are meant to come to me anyway, to come to me naturally. So that's why after doing a session, things always happen. There's so many manifesting things that are always happening right after doing a long session. Or if I have a client and I did a long session with the client, the next couple of days, it will be just manifest, 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 and synchronicities. So I do think that through Cognomovement, I've noticed that my filters are cleared and therefore my chakras are working at full capacity and things just come to you. They just are magnetized to you. Anyway, so that was our first chapter, and I'm so, so excited to be reading this with you. I'm going to be posting the next one in a couple of days. And if you do not have a copy and you want to hear this again, you can rewind and listen. I love having a physical copy of a book because I love underlining it and I love looking at words and I love the smell of books, and I'm not like a digital book kind of person. I like listening to audio and I like actually having the book as well. Like it's weird. I want both. Um, so if you are interested, they have other people reading it online. Um, and you know, I'm so curious to hear what your impression of that first chapter was. Please make sure you leave a comment below and let me know if you're following along. And I don't know, are you a Florence Shinn fan as well? Let me know. And don't forget to follow.